Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second webinar of the webinar series on NEP 2020, organized by the IPAC of CMS College under UGC Biometric Scheme. Respected Principal, guest of honor for the day, Dr. T.B. Shashikumar sir, and other dear participants who are participating in today's webinar. It is my privilege to welcome you all to the second webinar on the topic Practicable NEP 2020, Educational Thoughts, which is part of the webinar series on National Education Policy 2020. The focus of the webinar series is to orient the academic community about the impact and implications of the new educational policy. Our speaker for today's session is an eminent personality, Dr. T.B. Shashikumar, who is a renowned space scientist, educationist, spiritual director, motivational speaker, and an author. He was the former Deputy Director at Directorate General of Security, Cabinet Secretariat, Government of India, and worked as a scientist in Space Department of ISR for 2 decades. He was also the Director of UGC Academic Staff College, University of Calicut. He was Professor and Head of the Department of Business Administration at JNTU, Hyderabad, and was also Professor of Mathematics at KL University, Hyderabad. He is at present the Chairman of Shiksha Gnanam, Life Learning Residential Camp, Hyderabad. He is a person who is taking education with a different motivation, with complete participation. I hope and I wish this session will be a success, and I take the opportunity to welcome Dr. T.B. Shashikumar to this webinar. I also welcome our principal, Dr. Verghese Joshua, who will be the moderator for today's webinar. I also appreciate and welcome each and every one of you for taking the time to join us here today. And we wish you for an engaging and a fruitful session. Thank you very much. And one more information, the feedback link for this webinar will be posted midway through the session. And please fill in those feedback forms for getting the e-certificates. Thank you very much. Over to you, sir.
Respected Dr. T.B. Shashikumar, faculty members, students, ladies and gentlemen. Our country declared a new policy on education after a very long time, 34 years. It proposes big changes in education sector, and any change in education sector will have huge impact on all sectors of the country. I remember a very old proverb: the only thing that is not changing is the change. And tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. And this is the context of this webinar series organized by IQAC cell of CMS College. And today's talk is the second of the series on National Education Policy 2020. And through this exercise, we are preparing for the future, simply saying. Last week, in the first talk, we have seen what this or we try to understand what NEP is. And from today onwards, or from the second series onwards, we are trying to analyze and understand its consequences, its implications, and opportunities and openings, of course, the threats and challenges the national education policy put forward. Today we are fortunate to have Dr. K.P. Shachikumar is with us as the speaker, and he will lead the deliberations today. And I believe he preferred an interactive session rather than a monologue or talk. So that is why we prefer this Google Meet as a platform, because all participants can join in the interactive session. The IQAC coordinator, Dr. Jyotijan Panikkar, introduced Dr. K.P. Shachikumar. Well, still to me, Dr. Shachikumar is a good friend of mine, and he was a few years senior to me at the Department of Mathematics, Cochin University of Science, very long back. And he is moving from one domain to another, like a honeybee or butterfly moving from one flower to another. I feel so. As Dr. Jyotijan Panikkar introduced, he is a space scientist for a very long time, and for a few years he played a significant role as Chief of Security of Government of India, of some Government Official Directorate, and a professor in different disciplines, in mathematics as well as business administration, and educationalist as well, and so on. And moreover, he is a very well-known motivational speaker, not only to kids as well as to professionals in corporate sectors. And he is also the spiritual director of Shiksha Jnanam, and it is his own program on learning life. And I feel, though his discipline is mathematics, his subject of interest is life. And he authors a number of books. Most of the title carries life, like Life of Love, Rhythm of Love, or Life Made Simple, like this. So I summarize him as simply a genuine philosopher. So I formally welcome Dr. K.P. Shachikumar once again to CMS College, this time digitally. Last time he was here for 2-3 days, and he interacted and motivated, interacted with our students and motivated them very in a large way. And I wish all the participants a very good time here today, and a very nice interaction with a philosopher who is with us. And I think it's time for us to begin. And I request Dr. K.P. Shachikumar to begin the talk and the deliberations. Thank you.
Namaskaram to my good friend now who is leading the CMS College. Last time when I visited CMS College, his senior was the principal and he was the second in command. I was in CMS College last time in 2007. That too was because of Professor Joshua only. 2017, yeah. I was there from January to August in 3-4 programs continuously. Both the WWS, teachers training programs, and induction training program, all of them are due to Dr. Joshua because he happens to be the student of one of my most favorite professor at KUSAT, Professor Krishnamurthy. So I am here because of the kindness of Professor Krishnamurthy and Professor Joshua. Whenever we go to some college, we keep saying that, or maybe the introduction, like when Jyoti Panikar did, it's their fortune to be having me in their college. But I am sure anybody who goes to CMS college can be proud of going to the first college in South India. One of the oldest pre-independent college. I am telling this because I have seen people from Delhi also participating here who are the professor of philosophy in one of the colleges from Delhi. They should know how prestigious is CMS college because I feel proud to be part of, at least for a few hours, to be part of the CMS college. It's one of the oldest pre-independent. The first principal happens to be a British man. First or subsequent principals also, I think. Yes, Dr. Joshua?
More than 10.
Yeah, more than 10 principals.
Up to 1947.
Yeah. So it's proud to be part of that. So when I go to such an old college, I am sure I should not start from where last week, exactly 1 week back, last Wednesday, Professor Joshua gave a beautiful platform on what is national education policy. I have been following different talks by great personalities around India, starting from Kasturirangan, Prime Minister, Education Minister, all of them. I think one of the best presentation which really consolidated all aspects was by Professor Joshua last time, and it had 125 slides. So making it happen was the last slide. So that is why I thought I should talk to you on how to make it happen, the practical aspect of National Education Policy 2020. But as Professor Joshua said, I always look at philosophical aspects, so it has to be some educational thoughts. So sharing it will be what I am trying to do. We just had, the September is a good time always because we just finished the Teachers' Day and nobody in this country can forget the great president we had, who was really an academician, who was Vice Chancellor of one of the oldest universities in India. So my talk will be spending few minutes of my time on looking at the understanding the spirit of education in India as envisaged by Dr. Radhakrishnan, the great philosopher and an educationalist who was a great spiritual soul. And then maybe sometime I will spend on now how is it and why is it so. Probably if that gets too elongated, people can stop me and asking, because when we talk about today's situation, like anybody else, it's not finding fault. It is to look at what are all the pitfalls so that we can always look at what can be done next. So then I will spend maybe 3 different aspects which I found probably have to be addressed. One is on functions and concepts of education, and then aims of education, re-look at it in the context of national education policy, and maybe a few minutes on the curriculum aspects, what could happen. Because the implementation part is still in a rolling ball, which has got nearly 30 years of time or maybe 20 years of time. Or as we will see from 1949-50 onwards, we are rolling it. And then over a period of time, it did not roll that well, therefore it got a lot of fungus. So that is what probably I will stress upon, I will look at it. I recall verbatim probably the talk which I heard for this purpose, because I wanted to know how Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan was looking at education when he started the whole bowl to roll. And fortunately, I landed up in the All India Radio recorded version, which is in the All India Radio Hyderabad, which is available. But that happened to be on 30th September 1963, almost 1 year prior to my birth. So that old is the education policy, and that too on a program where in Kerala University in Thiruvananthapuram, Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan was talking. If you have not got that, or if you have not heard that, I am sure all of you should listen to that. So I am not talking about, I am not trying to play that. I thought I will start with playing it, but that I don't want to do, because once you get into that, there are plenty of another equivalent or series of good ones. So I picked up few points. So I'm sure I'm talking to you after 20,806 days after his talk. We are discussing almost same. That's what I wanted to tell. Whenever we say new education policy, if you start comparing what Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan spoke in 1963 and what we are talking today, philosophically, principle wise, not much different. So we celebrate most of the things when, like the Teachers' Day, but I don't know how many people have really heard about it, because I have not heard anybody mentioning this. That's unfortunate. He says, this is almost verbatim on what he says. Universities are the means by which traditions of the country, intellectual, artistic, ethical, technical, are handed over from one generation to the next for the progress of the country, education for the whole man. To think, to feel, to do, to be. That is what he says. Now understand this. Is it not the same what we are talking today? Without thought, nothing great can happen. Therefore, even for a tapasvi, when he goes to tapas, as Panini says, tapam alochane. Even a tapas have to be with reflection, discussion, reviewing. No segregating in thinking has to happen. Most of us think that we think, but we don't think. Most of us follow what others thought and others taught us, and we regret repeating it after some time when we grow, because our education policy did not give us the freedom to think. That is why most of the leaders in the political party say something and the followers just follow. And that is what we see. That is how the world is today. The mind actually should have the freedom to think. That is what is to be given by education. And not just thinking. The thought has to become work, an activity. We have the great two students. I keep on repeating this. In Mahabharata, we have Dharmaputra and Duryodhana. Both of them studied under the same professor. They are from the same family. But unfortunately, Duryodhana became bad, Dharmaputra became good. That is what the majority says. So, every mother will be unhappy seeing her son become so. So, there is a dialogue between Duryodhana and Gandhari. And he explains why he is so. Janami dharmam nachame pravritti, janamya dharmam nachame nivritti, kenapi kamena hridistitena yata niyuktosi tatha karomi. Janami dharmam, I know what is to be done. Our education system also teaches what is to be done, but we are not able to do it. That is what the implementation part. What can be done? We are not able to do it, and we find a lot of reasons for not doing it. Nachame nivritti. What cannot be done, we keep doing it. Because the system, we always complain the system, but we are part of the system. I am sure every education system should have a lot of flexibility, and that is what today's education policy gives us. if as teachers and academicians and people who have concern about education is not using this utility, we will again roll back to the same situation and we will discuss the same thing after another 30-40 years. That should not happen. What is right should be liked, what is wrong should be hated. And that is what Aristotle says. Ideas are not enough. Make people to think and then make act to that. And that is the think rightly and feel nobly. And the noble thought has to come. And for the noble thoughts, probably we should have a holistic approach on everything. This is what again Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan told many times. Iteratively he was talking to different places on different platforms on the same concept. You can listen to all of them. There are a lot of quotations on education by Radhakrishnan. All of them talks the same. The children must be treated as human being, not as autometer. They are physical. I keep always talking about fivefold development: physical, intellectual, emotional, social and spiritual. And well-being of this is what education has to give. It is necessary that each one of us should think and propose and prepare the education not merely for an academic exercise of learning some subjects and then writing examination in the point of view of examination. Probably the new education system gives a lot of impetus on what is not examination, what is examination, what should not be examination, what should be our focus. It is the growth of the spiritual sensitivity. Unless we develop the kind of spiritual sensitivity, we cannot regard as an educated human being. Literature has great part to play in the making the consciousness of any individual to be as a grown-up human family as a whole in the whole world. If that has to happen, I am sure we should not have the so-called specialized technology department, specialized medical departments, specialized universities on these. That has been diluted not just because of the national education policy, people started talking about it. Our earlier president was focusing on Indian Institute of Technology, and then the humanities subject was introduced there. I'm sure the Indian Institute of Science has got a different structure. Therefore, we cannot restart a Indian Institute of Science in different parts of the country. Therefore, a similar activity called ISER was introduced with great push from Abdul Kalam. So I'm sure many such universities under the government structure, which actually started working in that concept, and probably the preliminary success which we have seen in those institutions also has given lot of input to the new education policy. So one of the role model what we can see is the dilution in IA, we cannot say dilution, the multidisciplinary approach in the Indian Institute of Technology. Dilution in the sense because we have got the name Indian Institute of Technology that got the humanities subject also. Probably today the humanities subjects in Indian Institute of Science is most sought than the technology subjects in those places. And similarly, the ISER is one where education itself has given, research has given lot of importance. These two were missing, education and research. So probably that also has been included in the ISER. I was part of the Inspire program where propagating ISER among children in different parts of the country, and therefore I know how ISER works and what is the pattern in which it is running. So there are a lot of things to be learned from such an experience which we have today. Radhakrishnan defined the curriculum perfectly well. It is in 1949, he was in the University Commission report, he exactly mentioned, if you reread that and today's national education policy, you see a lot of repetition. Because that is what the base for Indian education as a whole. But we failed in implementing. So today also, if you don't take it very seriously, things will get diluted and we will lose the track. He wants that a student should study a number of subjects such as language, literature, social studies, geography, history, economics, philosophy, ethics, theology, moralities, politics, civics, science, mathematics, art, music, fine arts, vocational things and profession, like subjects of different specialization, sports, physical education, yoga, and religion. I'm sure what is left there. So this was the holistic view we had. So having said this, now let us look at where are we and why we are like this today in this situation. If you know that, then probably you can expand. Where we stopped from the aspects what Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan spoke, I take the last slide where last Joshua sir stopped probably, if you can see how to implement that. And one of the most stressed item in the national education policy is we should have Sarva Kala Shala. The university has to be a place where the Sarva, that means the whole thing, as an art, as a science, as a humanity, as a philosophy, everything should be there in that place. So the specialized subjects has gone. Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Charajaram Tatpadam Darshidam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. See the holistic view of education what Bharata, the whole tradition, the heritage had. It is not something Akhanda Mandalakaram. The whole thing, the whole holistic view of everything what you wanted to know. Who tells me, who teaches me, who shows me, tat padam darshidam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. He is who is considered as Guru. So I am sure we have to understand this. If we don't understand, our Indian tradition was a holistic education. We want everyone to learn every subject and get full overall view, and that was our principle, and where we diluted, and that shouldn't happen. If that happens, probably we will lose the track. It's an honorable, great profession to be a teacher, and therefore, though teachers have specializations, whenever somebody asks me what is my background, I keep saying my background is all subjects. Because in childhood onwards, we studied every subject. My foreground keeps changing. That is why all of us are taught different subjects. But people keep saying, my subject is only this, I don't know the other subject. That shouldn't happen. That means you have forgotten your background. That shouldn't happen. Every subject is built upon the holistic overall knowledge which we should have in every aspect in this world. We understand that, then we will be able to connect from one subject to another subject. That is why we have gone into narrow paths. Now we are going to have multidisciplinary campuses, multidisciplinary programs. Every student can pick up different subjects and sit in your class. So a student of mathematics is not a horse view with only mathematics today. Probably he will have different subjects added together and he will sit. Therefore, he is a scholarly person. He has got the scholarship. He can understand different subjects. He can relate what he studies in mathematics to different subjects. And if this happens, I am sure the education will become good. The biggest problem and where the implementability will fail is, again, the narrow mind of the teachers. If teachers don't relearn, unlearn, and redefine the role by themselves. I am sure if that doesn't happen, any education policy which we have, I am sure out of 250 people who are listening to me today in this platform, most of them are teachers. You must ask yourself, how do I relate my subject to different other subjects? If that cannot happen, I am sure we talk about life, we talk about different subjects, but the relation will be lost. Life, as far as I am concerned, just now Dr. Joshua have told that I keep writing about life because for me life is learn in full enjoyment. L-I-F-E, learn in full enjoyment. If you don't learn in full enjoyment, if you don't relate what you are learning to your life, I am sure the passion for learning will not be there. That's why whenever I get lot of calls from different people, almost every day I get many calls. in all the calls from the students after plus 2, after 10th, after graduation, after post graduation, always they ask, what subject have scope? Everybody want to define the scope. I only keep saying your life should have scope, not the subject what you study. How do you create a scope for your life? Doing good? How can you do good? Only when you have passion for learning. If you have that, I'm sure the right time for a change in your life, the right opportunity have come. And this is the time when you should jump into that. If you don't feel, I feel pity on such people who don't take this opportunity as a great opportunity. And what is to be done? After exam, if you ask somebody, what are you doing? They'll tell you, I am waiting for the result. The waiting for the result happens to be a cool time, as if they have nothing to do. Assume you did a graduation and you don't know what to do from next day onwards, your graduation is useless. That's where we have lost. So what is to be done? The study should not be stopped just because the examination is over. The examination is like a test which you do to understand. The examination, the another synonym is test. Actually, examination or test is also used in medical science. That is to find out what disease you have, how much lacuna you have, how much reduction you have in your strength of your physique, whether you are sick or not. Examination in mathematics to know the parameters which you can get in mathematics, where are all the fault. And if somebody has got fault in that parameter, no doctor says that you are failure and you cannot improve, you get out of the class or get out of the hospital. I am sure the teachers also are supposed to repair the students. The idea of examination is to find out what is lacking and give medicines to make him fit. Similarly, examinations in the education system should be to see that the student is lacking something, and the job of teachers is to patch up the gap so that he can become successful in the subject. If that patching up doesn't happen, I am sure as a teacher you are a big failure, as a doctor is a failure without treating a student, a patient. And if that doesn't happen in schools, I am sure we are not doing good. Whenever somebody asks me how to prepare for which subject I have to join for my masters after graduation, I only ask them to write a SOP, which is normally a practice in the best universities in the world. Today we don't have such a system in our academics for admission. They join there because they don't have any other choice, or that is the only one choice which is readily available. Probably they have nothing else to do, therefore they join for courses. That should not happen. So why and how this can be changed? I keep asking students, if they want to write any competitive exam like UPSC or maybe a bank test, they have to get into some job. Immediately I'll ask them, write a short note on any subject which you have learned, or probably read a newspaper and find what is that happening in the world other than like everybody talks about COVID today. I don't want that. Something else. Will you be able to write one paragraph and tell me you are looking at the world to know what is it happening in the world? It can be anything. It can be sports, it can be music, it can be cinema, it can be anything in the world. If that what he chooses as his subject is understood, I know what is their taste, what is their passion. And I keep asking, and I see most of the time they write something, but the course which they opt is something else. That's because the passion and profession are seen separate. I'm sure the new education policy gives you a bridging these two. Earlier, again Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan told, you can have a profession to earn money, the vidya dhanartham, and that vidya which gives you or makes you a good savidya vimuktaye, which gives you happiness. Vimukti is happiness, mukti is happiness. That if you can get, that you can get only when you have a passion to study. Today what is lacking in our course system is we have so much pressed. They don't have time for the relaxation. And probably the 10th class is not a right time to choose what they wanted to study. 12th is not the right time to choose what they wanted to study. Probably most of them join in a degree program without knowing what they want to do in their life. And after joining, they realize this is not what they wanted and they have no other option, because it's like a gun given to you with 6 bullets, only 1 bullet is loaded and the 5 of them are not there. If you are lucky to shoot, probably 1 shoot you will get the target, other 4 are waste. So that is our education system today. If you are lucky, you are in. If you are not lucky, probably you lose your chance of first shoot. And this is what's happening. So if this should not happen, I am sure that today's flexibility of getting out, and you can always take a chance of getting into some other course and then try your luck there. And you can always come back and continue. This flexibility is a great thing. And probably the new education system did not do it just for the helping the students, because we have large demand for higher education. The 50% of the students, 55% of the students are not even getting admissions in the best course what they want. So probably we don't have that sort of an academic institution where they can get admissions. So what is one of the method is to create people to get out of the place, so that the first year you have got large number, second year probably you have only 30% strength, and people who will come back and join you. Therefore you have a rolling system in your academic institution where you can cater to multiple number of people, large number of people. I am sure this demand is going to get enlarged in the years to come, in the next 20 years, because India's youth are increasing and the population is increasing in that spectrum, and we need to cater education for the large number of people. So the demand has to happen, and the system has to provide that. This is the only way out. Probably this could have been a shortcut to what the government has seen. Okay, so this is what I wanted to tell you about the structure today, why and what is happening here. Now, from KG to the highest education system, where the student is seeing the teachers, and I'm sure if you ask a small child what you want to be in your life, they will all tell, I want to become teachers. But as they grow, I have seen maybe 8 lakhs of children, more than 5 lakhs of teachers in my life. If you ask most of them, the teachers opted to teaching probably because they don't have any other option. Second one, the teachers in the younger childhood, if they want to ask what you want to be, they may tell you that you want to become a teacher, but as they grow, they will tell you they never wanted to become teachers. One of the reasons is teachers are less paid. The second reason could be that they have seen all the teachers are not that good. Therefore, the respect is not there, the education has become dilution, and they are not having the status in the society. How can we rebuild that? I am sure the brightest of the brightest will come to teaching profession. Today that is not the situation. And if that has to change, I am sure the merit has to be given importance to be appointed as teachers. Today the situation is, somebody becomes a teacher, the lifelong until death, they can become a teacher without writing any examination. That should not happen. Teaching should not be the teacher's job. Learning should be the teacher's job. So I'm sure the new education policy, if you want to be an excellent teacher, even today if you want to be an excellent teacher, you have to be a continuous learner. So the role of a teacher from the teaching gets back to the learning. I'm sure a good learner is a good teacher today. And that is going to be the more stressed, more emphasized in the days to come. The greatest change, probably somebody was talking all these days, wherever I have heard, is 1986 Rajiv Gandhi called education as HRD, and 2020 people are calling HRD as education. That is not true. I'm sure whatever I spoke so far is a clear indication that it is not renaming, just it is not giving some policies just like that what has happened. The disaster is what a wasteful education which was happening in most of the academic institutions, and that is getting revamped with a great new look. Many of us will agree 90% of what we learn in academic institutions are waste. I have been in recruitment agencies. for helping bank sector. I have been in IT recruitment sector. I have been training people for different recruitments in different MNC companies. I have been part of recruitment in government. I have been part of recruitment in private sector. There was interviews where I was interviewing more than 300 civil engineers from IIT, and I have to tell none of you are fit. I have seen a PhD in an IIT coming for a teacher's job in a mechanical engineering subject. When I asked him to define what is gravity, he utterly failed. And this happened because the education has not given him a deep-rooted knowledge in understanding the basics. If that is not repaired, I am sure the education system will just make people useless out of 3 years or 4 years program. It is not that we had a B.Ed program of 4 years which is introduced now. We had regional education institutes, RIE, which the 4 regions, south, east, west, south and north, already it is running. And I am sure wherever I have seen good teachers in the high school and plus 1, plus 2, higher secondary schools, immediately sometime I ask them, are you an RIE product? Because I found them distinctly different, because their background training them into that is a beautiful concept. RIE has done a wonderful job. Therefore, the B.Ed system which we are introducing is not new. It is what is experimented in RIE which is getting established in any other place. And there are flexibility. But I am sure you will see a drastic difference in the quality if the teachers are having that bend of teaching, join to a program and say after plus 1, plus 2 that I want to be a teacher, and that orientation is given during the whole 3-4 years, because teaching job is not that a simple job. And many people talk about the 6% GDP which is going to be projected in the new education policy. I don't really agree that it is a great change, because there are different allocations in different ministries. Altogether, if you add what happened in HRD, in different human resource, in different society, different parts of the strategy and different levels in what is given as rebates, if you add them together, probably that becomes a huge amount. The 3,000 crores of money as of $2.8 trillion GDP which we claim today, if you look at it, that's not a great amount in education if you want to make this change. So in the beginning of the next 10 years to 20 years, I am sure if India's GDP in 2024, if we want to join in the $5 trillion club in the whole world, if that do not happen, and this revamp is what is suggested, if you want to give good facility and good infrastructure, good recruitment, because there are huge number of educational experts which needs to be put into academics, universities, the school examination systems need to be specialized teachers, the training teachers in the smaller level at the 6th grade onwards, we are deciding that we have to teach coding. I don't know where do we get teachers. So the higher education teachers and the higher education academic institutions will have to step into training the teachers in the lower level. That is going to be a huge task. And if the money which government is not going to push for such large human resource building, I don't again call it as education building, the education will happen only when the supportive human resource development program is there. If that do not happen with a lot of private participation, with a lot of funding, if that do not happen, probably the private parties will come into picture and private academic institution will start struggling to survive, and dilution of quality will come. And then what will happen? Like today what is happening? The private institutions, though they have a great money input, they are not able to compete with IAC, IASR, ISER, IIT, AIMS. We don't have a better institution than these. It says government institutions are not second to the private institutions in this country. Always a good student aspire to be part of the great academic institution which are all run by government. So government knows how to run the institutions. What is happening? The funding for those institutions when you compare to the normal other schools are too less. So I am sure if good funding is done and good infrastructure is built, I don't like to go and sit in a school where there is no beautiful place to sit. The infrastructure has to change. The facilities have to change. If that do not happen, I am sure the concern in education what we have today as a small job, teaching job is not a great job, that feeling will come and merit will get diluted. If we are planning to have a 20 years of target, the youngsters should be getting attracted, they should get into the facility what is given to the youngsters in a normal MNC company like a 5-star style. Otherwise, the merit will be spoiled. The flexibility have got both positive and negative. This is not the time to tell the negative part of it. How to make it happen is what we are discussing. So, that should happen. Today, the education learning is like a punishment. Because you have to finish the syllabus. The teachers also take it as a punishment. And you have to have a lot of paperwork, and the incentives are not given. The innovative, passionate, philosophical, motivating, empowering, curiosity, creativity, imagination, all these are only in the thought process. But in the class, it doesn't happen because it's always like a pressure. And that pressure, if you don't get into, I don't know how many of you have seen the movie called The Pressure Cooker. It's a Telugu movie. It's a beautiful movie where a student is put into a pressure cooker, and I am from Hyderabad. I know how the parents put them to see that they go to America, because they all dream. From grade 6 onwards, students are put into classrooms. There are night classes. After the day class, they will be sent to night class. The students don't have time to spend with their parents. And that much pressure is not there in different parts. And the next place where we have is probably Kottayam. We have got a lot of coaching centers. Everybody in Kerala are handicapped people. They always will ask after plus 1, plus 2, joining itself, they will tell after plus 1, plus 2, they want to go to coaching center. I don't know the 13th class system which repeated in Kerala in some of the places where they are earning money. And the place like Kota, there is a great movie made out of the Kota experience which is called Cheat India. I am a passionate movie watching person, not no movie learning person. From the movie I learn a lot. I am sure if you have not seen that movie, you should see Cheat India. Where what is happening in such places, how the pressure is being pushed into the students to get some examination. If that examination doesn't become stress free, what is happening today? We have great number of MBBS coming out. I must have gone to different medical colleges to teach students, understand students, to give them counseling, mentoring, to reduce their stress during examination. What I found is most of them have got stress because they have got a different pattern. Their failing in examination means a lot of money, because sometimes in some private medical colleges, failing in 1 or 2 papers will cost them 10 lakhs rupees. And the parents' pressure in one side, students' pressure in the other side, faculty pressure in the other side, and all these pressure, you can see a lot of people commit suicide. You go to a city called Nagpur and Hyderabad, we have a center of the city, we have a lake. When the result is published, that is actually surveyed by police people. Otherwise, there are a lot of youth who jump and then commit suicide. If you look at in All India Institute of Medical Sciences, the number of people who commit suicide soon after getting entry are large number. So the stress have to come down. How do the stress come down? Only thing, if the education becomes a real enjoyment and edutainment. The cognitive ability and the age pattern is taken care of by the new education policy, and that is where grade 3 onwards the implementation is the new system like 3+, 4+ and all that is planned. Now what will happen if that is not getting implemented? It is a beautiful failure. If that has to be implemented, it is not that an easy task. I am sure it is not a cake way for all the colleges as you think. Autonomous college have got better facility and you can just jump there and we get into that role, that wheel is already ready, we can roll running. No, that doesn't happen. I am sure it is going to be a real powerful change in the culture of the teachers. The system can change, the by name it can change, but if the teachers don't change, again it will be the same what is going to happen. The top country, if you want to become the top country, that is what we aim at, as a knowledge driven country powered by intelligence. It is not that simple to become the top of the world. I am sure it is very good because we have got youth potential to produce lot of things, highly productive, good brain. That is why America, if you look at what America imports from India, it's the best brain, the best people in this country. If you look at who are the students in MIT who are doing very well, my student is also studying in MIT. How do they perform and what is the commitment which they have? They have great. The same student in India is not able to perform that well. We are not able to create a good academic institution which rank around 200. The Indian students, if the youth is not happy, we don't get even happy. The happiness index India is worse than Pakistan. That is because our youth is put into academics, the full pressure. The same in Finland, people are happy. With all the yoga system, meditation system, all the spirituality which we boast upon, and we celebrate all this, the worst thing is that we are not happy. How can we happy? If in the youth system, in the college time, in the education time, if you are not happy, how do you think you are going to be happy when you are in academics? That is because we are seeing teachers who are not happy. So if the education system has to change, I am sure it is not the salary. It is the flexible complementary promotion system. Teachers have to test themselves for that academics. I remember when I was a professor in management, I am sure if I don't write examination in which my student is writing exam and I don't get 100%, I call myself unfit to be a teacher there. I challenge how many teachers have got this ability. I keep asking the young teachers in the nursery when they teach Tingle Tingle Little Star or maybe London Bridge is falling down, I ask them who wrote this poetry. They don't do that analysis. They don't think about who is the poet who wrote this. Because the teacher and the student, there is no difference. Both of them know the same rhyme. They can chant the same rhyme. That's it. So the teacher and the student, there is no difference. The teacher becomes teacher, you become an academician, you become an educator, you become a guru, you become an acharya only when you have something greater than the student. The reproducing and singing in the nice way, probably the student and the teacher will do well. So from that grade onwards, I am sure you must have a great change. And where we should reach, every teacher from the childhood, from the nursery onwards, they should know today. I have not seen when I ask the student from any branch, anywhere. I meet thousands of children. Today, this being the time of COVID, I have got a lot of people who are contacting me on internet, on my WhatsApp, on my mail. I ask them write a small note on what could be the India's future. I have not seen people referring to something on 5G. I have not seen somebody talking about the fourth industrial revolution. They have not heard about the World Economic Forum. The other day I was talking in the Chamber of Commerce. Yeah, I think the Thrissur Chamber of Commerce, Thrissur Management Association. You type in TMA Dr. TPS and then search, you will listen to my lecture. The 5G, it's in Malayalam. The 5G, no, I don't think. It's in English or Malayalam, I don't remember. Yeah, the fourth industrial revolution, I gave a beautiful talk there. I have not seen students looking at what is going to be the future. If you don't know what is going to be the future, I am sure how are you preparing yourself? And how are you asking somebody else what is the scope? So who are the people who has to tell them? They have to be told from the childhood onwards. So every teacher should know what is the future in the world. The multiple entry exit system is a beautiful one which needs to be entertained so that people can go out and look what the world is and then come back. That's one method of understanding. I am sure this is also not new. I know that all the Kerala people know Kunjunni Master, the great poet. കുള്ളനായി കൃക്കനായി ജനിച്ചോരുണ്ണി ഞാൻ കുഞ്ഞുണ്ണി എന്നെ കണ്ടോരോ ഭാഗ്യവാന്മാർ കാണാത്തോർ മഹാഭാഗ്യവാന്മാർ. I keep saying, quoting that and rewriting, എന്നെ കേട്ടോരോ ഭാഗ്യവാന്മാർ കേൾക്കാത്തോർ മഹാഭാഗ്യവാന്മാർ. That Kunjunni Master, you know what he said? After 10th class, every child has to be thrown out of their houses. Let them sit idle for 1 year. Let them roam around the world around and then see what is to be required. What is that he has to study? Then put him into +1, +2. If at all he comes and says, I want to learn. Every revolution, if you have seen in this world, happened only in the youth time. And if that freedom is not given, I'm sure what is that we are doing? And that is what is to be done. If that happens, I'm sure the development will happen. But to get into the world, we must make people fit. And that is where we must put great talent, the technology mix, the value system, the morality, everything has to be taught. So therefore, the basic education system in the younger childhood, probably up to 10th class, have got a lot of push in the new education policy. Okay, so understand it is not just a circular, it is a change in the culture. If that do not happen, and there are a lot of discussion which happens in the mother tongue, other tongue and all that. That doesn't have any difference because India always followed 3 language system. We have a mother tongue, we have a national language, or maybe a connecting to the different parts of the country and connecting the international world. And 3 language system, even if you look at Navodaya Vidyalaya when it was established, except in Tamil Nadu, every state in this country we have got a Navodaya Vidyalaya in every district. I was part of Navodaya Vidyalaya, faculty development program, teachers training program, principals program, staff program, students programs. That gave me a lot of liberty to go through the different part of the country to understand what education system, and that is one of the best example. Navodaya Vidyalaya established a beautiful 3 language system. So when you talk about 3 language system in NEP, I say that it is not new. Tamil Nadu did not had because they objected, saying the state government is saying that we don't want our children to study Hindi. That was one of the worst mistake they did. And later they wanted to start Navodaya Vidyalaya. Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti said we will not have in your state at all. So today also we don't have Navodaya Vidyalayas in state Tamil Nadu. See, understand, we wanted such a system to happen with a lot of collaboration. When that was established, what was the principle? That Navodaya Vidyalaya in the district has to support all the other educational institutions. As today we are telling, the nodal education system should support the neighboring education system. That was part of the paper which was written. But that Navodaya Vidyalaya teachers are not getting pension. They are not recognized as teachers in the government sector. So we have not repaired many of the things. What is the problem in the today's education system? And we look for something new. I am sure that is going to be a very bad state. So what is to be done is teachers in every system, whether it is ICSE, whether it is CBSE, whether it is central school, whether it is state syllabus, I am sure all of them need to be equipped with all the ability with a great payment. With the strict disciplined test process. If that do not happen, I am sure the teachers cannot show their quality. The collaborative learning is what is required. Therefore, higher education system have got lot of things to do for the younger teachers in the younger education system. And how and what is to be given lot of importance, lot of creativity, lot of communication skill. Now, that Acharya Padam Adate, Padam Shishya Swamedaya, Padam Sa Brahmacharibhya, Padam Kalakramena Cha. That is getting implemented today. You should have a lot of time in implementing, talking to each other. The teachers have to be good. Students have to prepare themselves because a lot of assignments, working in the field. My today's, as Joshua sir said today, these days my best interest is in agriculture. I am sure I am preparing a place where people can collaborate, come and work and learn agriculture. If anybody want to learn agriculture, I am sure there cannot be a classroom class. It cannot be in agricultural universities also sometime. You must go to the field with the real farmers. So I am creating an institution under an agricultural large area of 2000 acres in Hyderabad where people can learn and come agriculture in the weekend or holidays. If that skill development do not happen, if that attitude do not come, I am sure any change will not create a beautiful. So you have lot of every public person, every person who has got committed, every social individual who have got some commitment to the society have got a role to play in education today. Because everybody can find a place. I can create a structure where I can get the students to come and get enjoying learning. Sakshat anubhava drishto na sruto na guru darshitaha. It is not what teacher says is what is education today. What you can see and experience is what is going to be education. And this is the great change which I am seeing. And I guess I have covered sufficient enough. Almost 1 hour I have covered. probably I can get into any of the questions. If there are a lot of discussions, I will be the happiest. I never thought I can speak for 1 hour like this, but I found that education is man-making is what is Vivekananda said. If you want to understand national education policy, look at Vivekananda's textbook on My Eternal India, few pages on education. I repeat, if you read Vivekananda's book, My Eternal India, the few pages on education, I am sure you see that the man-making what Vivekananda stressed upon, which was re-stressed by Radhakrishna, Dr. Radhakrishnan, as an educational expert, that what Vivekananda said is what is reiterated. And today's education policy is also reiterating the same thing. I am sure the 20% of the blessed brain who are with the greatest opportunity in the country are always good. But we have another 80% of the students who are from the poor background, who are fatal because of their parents' background. They are not able to get into the cream institution, and they are desperate with a high dream saying that English education is great. Now today they are getting lot of importance. And those 20%, the smart people who are gifted, and they are not able to grow and create a large cream of 20% cream coming out of every institution in this country, because most of the people are lazy. So I'm sure new education system will not permit them a one-day batting or one-night batting, learning the old question paper and then getting 100% mark and then get admission into the next academic institution will not happen. And that has to change. Giving examination, getting good marks about 90% is a silly job in today's academic situation. Let it be mathematics or statistics or humanities subject. I'm sure the good people who are getting good marks. And sometimes our selection criteria is with the optional questions. All these have to go. Education should become Prerakam, Suchakam, Vachakam, Darshakam, Shikshakam, Bodhakam. If these 6 activity happens, and I am sure the Guru Surupam should become Acharyas, a practitioner of the holistic view in their activity. I am sure people will start following. And such things happens, the education system will have lot of change, and that is a great role in the teacher's part. And that's a big task. And this is what I want to stress upon. Probably if you have few questions, I am ready to take it up and then we will start discussing. I think you want me to speak a little more, I can, but I am sure it is better to open it up with a lot of questions and answers.
Thank you, Shashikumar sir. I'm always, when I am listening to your speech or talk, I notice 2 things or 2 characteristics: the full energy and the passion. And this is another display of talk with full energy and passion. And I hope all of the participants can feel the passion and the energy which the way in which he is speaking. And thank you once again, and this is the time for interaction. Please, from the participants. Any comments, remarks, or questions?
Should I read the chat box, or somebody will come on to video and then ask me question? Coming on to video and asking questions will feel like, yeah, you are really interacting. I welcome. I have seen some questions I could pick up, but that question happened to be a random selection. Joshua sir will permit random selection because he is a statistician.
If anybody comes
I welcome somebody to come on to video.
That's better. And after that, we can go to the random selection if there is.
Yeah. Gautam.
Hello, Gautam. I remember you. You attended the student program here. Yes, am I right?
Gautam is not audible.
Gautam, you are not muted.
You are not muted, but there is some problem for your speaker. Yeah, somebody else in between.
He's changing his mind. Just a minute.
Yes, I will be audible now.
Yeah.
Yes, it is audible.
Yes.
I remember you. You attended the student program or not? Is that
Yes, the
2018? I think.
of officer. Yes, absolutely.
How are you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm absolutely fine. How are you, sir? I'm glad that you remember me. Okay. Can I go now?
Yeah.
I don't know, but
Currently, I'm assistant professor in Rajkot in Marwadi University.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you attended the meeting here when you are a student, right? Am I right?
I attended the summer school of
Yes, summer school.
which was organizing two meetings.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think it was you who was coordinating the whole summer school.
Yes, 2 years back.
Yeah, sure. So I'm glad that you remember, sir. My question was to Shashi, sir. Can I?
Yeah.
Shashi, sir, can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
Sir, first of all, thank you very much to giving me the opportunity to ask the question. And at the same time, I'm really glad that you conducted a very enlightening, you lectured in a great way to enlighten us. My question is, sir, since now in the new education policy, the different objectives that have been mentioned by which are intended, which will of course take maybe around 2 decades to achieve after, if we really want to see its effect. My question is, sir, how important it is that we give importance to the regional languages. In India, we have a taboo that if you can't speak English, I think you are not educated. Now, this is a serious taboo, I think, because we come across many such people, even though who can't speak English, but they are really intelligent. So, how do we overcome this hurdle? And I consider this one of the biggest hurdles. So, I would like to know your viewpoint on that.
Yeah. There are two aspects when you talk about English language and English literature. Unfortunately, in our education system, English literature is given more importance than English language. There are a lot of English professors who have got a PhD in English, but their communication skill, when it comes to that, it becomes almost very bad. Native speakers' credibility is entirely different. But what I am asking is, how much time a young child will take to learn a new language is just 2 years from age 1 to age 3. Without a grammar mistake at the age of 3 or 4, the child is able to communicate whatever they want. But what is lacking even after 10 years of academic programs in English, even with learning English from the English teachers, when students pass 10th class, they find difficulty in communicating because language is different and literature is different. Tingle Tingle Little Star is what we learn in childhood. That doesn't mean they are learning English. So, English language skill development is not part of our curriculum as of today. Therefore, don't mix with English language to what we do in our English medium schools. The best English medium schools also, the English teacher may be communicating well, but you have a drill teacher who will tell very bad English. So what happens is, I remember when my son joined the small KG class, the PT teacher, the drill teacher was telling in the assembly, don't look here and there. So my son closed his eyes and then stood. I said, no English people will tell, don't look here and there. You understood? So our English language has got lot of fault, and that is not getting corrected. I remember somebody from UK who is also a Keralite from Palakkad, who taught Britishers the English language for 30 years as a professor. And he came to one of the place in our Calicut University, one of the great teacher, professor in our university when I was a director. Somebody came and asked, sir, what's your good name? He said, don't ask this in Britain, you will get smashed. When you ask somebody what is a good name, that means you have a bad name also with you. You understood? So what we think as a great English is stupid, foolish English most of the time. So you cannot reach into that great English. What you think is a British English and American English. I remember there was a conference in Kerala, one of the best colleges, the higher education English, in which there was a British Englisher and an American Englisher, and since I became a connector both of them in that college, I was also asked to speak. I said I am a Kerala English person who speaks Manglish, and better business English is what I want. I took 90 normal Malayalam medium worst children probably from Palakkad, and in 3 days I gave them the courage of talking in English. I took them to Goa, and I asked them to find at least a few people in Goa beach. Ask them to interview and then get all the details in a pen and paper. Even today I keep a pen and paper with me. Without this I am not there as a student or as a teacher. I ask them write down all the details and then come back and tell me in the evening. In 3 days they have not learned communicative English, but they had the courage of talking to anyone in the world. So what is lacking today is that we don't give courage. You go to best English medium schools. I must have visited hundreds of them. You see few students will come and speak in the class, introducing somebody, welcome speech, and finished. The third fellow is out. Because every teacher has got a pet student. They train those people to become the presenters. The rest of the people are all the jokers. Correct? If we don't change this academic institution style in which they show to be, showing is different and being is different. And it doesn't make such a difference. You give me the worst children who don't. I remember going into Madhya Pradesh, young children where they don't even speak Hindi. So I am not able to communicate to them in Hindi, nor in English, nor in my mother tongue Malayalam, nor in the South Indian language which I know like Telugu, Kannada, Tamil, nor in Bangla or Gujarati. I cannot speak to them. But I was able to speak to them in English and they understood everything. Language learning, talking to them, communicating is only a simple job. That is not a big job. I am sure every Indian who doesn't have this, when they go abroad, probably there can be some pronunciation errors. I remember last year, this time I was giving lectures in America. I went to a church to talk about something. I used the word chappal. For us, chappal is footwear, but in America, chappal is chapel. They mistook it as chapel. You understood? So there are colloquial differences. I am sure that is not a big task. And that taboo which you talked about in only 15% of Indian students population. 85% is happy in their mother tongue. We are only interacting with the people whom you think is in the city or the population of India. We are wrong. And when we go to Arunachal Pradesh, I keep going to Arunachal Pradesh to teach children there. They are very good in English because they don't have their script writing in their own mother tongue. They use English as the script for writing their mother tongue. So English is not a foreign language for them as far as writing is concerned, and they speak good English. Got it? So it is not a big problem. You give me any child, any student for few days, creating them to English communicator is not a big problem. But our stress have to change from literature to language, for which teachers have to get trained. That's what is essential.
That is true. Absolutely, sir. Thank you. Any?
Yeah, anybody else?
Any questions? Any more?
I have seen lot of questions in the chat box, but I want people to come and ask. Again, now as we said, we have problem of language probably. Joshua sir, do you want me to read from the chat box?
Okay. Shall I request
I can read. You could mute, no? Yeah. Babani Saharia is there. You want to ask something?
Yes, sir. Good
Yeah.
evening to sir.
Babani from Assam, philosophy professor. Yeah. All others could mute other than Babani so that it is audible. I am muting myself. Yeah.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Sir, I just want to know, so what this NEP, would it be fruitful for all the level of students having diverse IQ, that is mental ability, sir? Would they follow equally like other advanced students?
Yeah, one of the strong point the new education policy considered is covering every spectrum of people, including, just now there was a question on mother tongue or other tongue. That is also addressed. You have different options. It is not that they are throwing away English. English is also part of it. Rest of the subjects is also part of it. People who want to have only the trade, they have an option. They want to become the researchers, they have an option. So there is a category of institutions identified: research oriented, academic oriented, higher education oriented. So today the problem is, when a student in 10th class, when I am teaching mathematics, I don't know whether he is going to do a PhD in mathematics, whether he is going to be a tool trained person for a skill job. So we are going to have a separation from all these different categories. Today we have vocational higher secondary scheme, but they are seen as low graded probably than the normal higher secondary schools. Therefore the higher spectrum of people don't send them to such institutions. Now today what is going to happen is a equal opportunity for equal status for everybody is being seen. So that is what a new change, that's a every part and parcel of the society is scattered. Perfectly well scattered.
What about the multi-dimensional courses, sir?
That is what I am saying. So the multi-dimensional courses give them an option to choose whatever they want, and a grade system with which they can get a degree at different levels. So first year they get a degree, second year they get a half degree, certificate, diploma, a degree sort of a thing with a B.Ed and a research separate. So the eligibility criteria at different levels have been categorized, staggered at different levels. That is what the advantage of today's national education policy is.
Sir, can I ask one question?
Yeah. Who else is that?
Sir Jayanti.
Yeah, sure.
Good evening, sir. It's always good to listen to you. Thank you so much for your wonderful talk. So I just wanted to know, you spoke about the holistic development we need in education, a holistic approach. So how can you think that, because the kind of syllabus we are teaching, we are supposed to teach, And within that particular syllabus, how can you think of a holistic approach to the educational system? Do you think that new educational policy will bring that holistic approach to all the subjects?
Yeah.
Like,
I think the change is not happening for the holistic education at the higher level in the university or academics like your research area, masters or graduation. The holistic background is created at the younger age, so that the child, when they get up to 10th or 12th class, the level of now the 11th grade up to equivalent to that, probably 13 years or 15 years, they are good in understanding what they want to do and learn. That is the holistic approach being given today. And the holistic approach come in different way, because in the academic institution is going to be not specialized. Now you are not going to have an agricultural university, you are not going to have a medical university, you are not going to have a technological university. You are going to have a university where they will learn philosophy, they will also learn mechanical engineering. So the term university is going to be really, by word literally mean, is going to be practically come into existence. So therefore you have an environment. Today what is happening, when you are, they have got triple IT, only information technology. They don't know anything other than information technology in that world. So what happens when they come out, I don't know, you must see, there is a movie called Bangistan. If you have not seen that movie, see that movie called Bangistan. It's in Hindi. If that movie, if you see, a person who comes out and then wanted to do, assigned for a very terrible job like a terrorist, but he is pretending, a Muslim is pretending as a Hindu, and he is going to a different country to do a bomb blast job. That's a task given to him. And being a priest, he was asked by somebody else to conduct the Pitru Puja, and that person who is died, the dead body is there. He is asking the wife and ask that go along with the husband and then do sati, because he has studied that in his childhood in some textbook. Sati is a practice of India. He was not updated what has happened in India after that. So sometimes we are blind because of what we learned in our childhood. We are not opened up. I am sure that is why I said Padam Shishyat Samedhaya Padam Sa Brahmajaribhya. When you collaborate and then meet people, I am sure there will be a dialogue which is happening. So most of the dialogue which happens across the teenage, the peer groups learning, the facilities are too less today. That is going to open up because we have real university system. Right? The holistic study is not your syllabus and the responsibility of teachers again to teach the whole thing. I think you must get out of that syllabus concept. You must go out of syllabus. It is beyond syllabus. Then only the holistic thing will come. Correct? That is what is going to happen. Yeah.
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
May I add another question which is supplementary to the same question?
Yeah.
Madam Jayanti Sahu asked about the multidisciplinarity and the policy proposal in the national education policy. Your talk is mainly based on the practicability of the policy. And I am also a little bit of fan of this policy, and it seems that it's very nice to see that you are advocating this policy very well. Still, I have some apprehension about the practicability, particularly in this multidisciplinarity, because right now, or in the present situation, in our country contains thousands of unitary universities. Unitary universities in the sense, agricultural universities, medical universities, technical universities, like this. And we are going back to the ancient culture of Sarvakala Shala that you have rightly pointed out in the beginning, university. My apprehension is, how can be possible in 10 or 20 years, these unitary universities can convert into these holistic multi-disciplinarity. So the concept is very nice, excellent, but I am a little bit dubious about its practicability. For example, consider the agricultural university in our state, Kerala. What is the future of the agricultural university? Is it possible to convert it into a real multidisciplinary university in the next 10 or 20 years? Or it is going to be merged with some of our multidisciplinary universities? What is the practical or what is the plan of action expected?
Yeah. Let me draw your attention to Agricultural University. Agricultural University had a BTech in Agriculture, MSc in Agriculture, but today in Thrissur Agricultural University, I was there to teach, take a seminar on management subject because they also run a MBA in Agriculture. So when you run an MBA in Agriculture, definitely there are faculties in economics, there are faculties in different subjects. So there was a dilution which happened slowly. AICT also proposed along with the BTech 1 year more program to give an MBA. There was a BTech MBA combined program which was already announced by AICT, but the takers were not there. Many of the people don't want to do this because they have two different streams running parallelly, MBA by NBA accreditation MBA, AICT accreditation BTech, and both combined also is run in different institutions, but they don't want to combine it. So probably there is an apprehension from the part of the students taking admission that is also going to change because the whole system is going to change. One, if you change in few places, it may not be accepted by public, but if you change it in large structure, I am sure it is going to change. IIT could accept humanities in 5 years' time. The whole revamp happened in IIT in 5 years' time. So I am sure 20 years is a large time. I am sure it is going to happen in next 10 years. Most of the universities did this because the social aspect of medicine is part of medical system today. MBBS people may not learn sociology, but without sociology you cannot study a master's program in medicine. So there is sociology inside that. Without mathematics you can do an MBBS. But I am sure every MBBS student, they wanted to go for post-graduation without statistics, they don't do. Research methodology is part of their learning. So we have already a multidisciplinary approach. We have compartmentalized most of them, but then started putting them together. We have got great institutions which are probably not that dilutable in the immediate future, because they have just started and there is a specialization. But I am sure in 10 years' time, we will see most of the institutions getting really into different aspects. Jayanti has to mute. Yeah.
Sir, I just have another.
Yeah.
Sir, just I don't know how to put it. Sir, you said that there should be some level of freedom, like given to the teachers. And do you think that new education policy will bring that freedom which the teachers are always looking for?
I think if you are a good teacher, you don't require any policy change. I was also teaching in different places. I never took attendance in my classrooms because I found that taking a physical attendance is actually waste of time. What I used to do is I used to give them assignments and then tell them by evening I should get these assignments in my email. And when the digital assignments were given, even before this COVID and digital classes started, I implemented my digital classrooms. All the assignments were submitted digitally. Evaluation becomes easier, duplication checking becomes easier, attendance is given based on the originality in the writing. I am a person who wrote a book based on the assignments given by students. So I am sure the autonomy is there in autonomous colleges. Definitely if the college is really brilliant, they can implement a lot of autonomy in their classroom. Even otherwise teachers have their own autonomy. I keep talking to different places. You don't have to read the textbook, present the class today in front of your students, because they are also, and the higher education, definitely teachers and students, there are no difference, because their grasping skill and your grasping skill is almost the same. So I'm sure you are a real motivator. You inspire your students to do their work and then come back. That is good enough. And what you present, what you give lecture can be available online where students can take it. That is good enough. So this I started doing it long back in my classrooms. I was teaching environment science. I used to teach and then share the PowerPoint totally available to my students, where I say that you look at it and then start reading. Why should I take my class? And I only give them assignments which are really critically creative so that they can contribute a great extent to understand what really they want. That is not a big job.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Shashivan sir?
I am here.
Okay. Can you proceed with the chat box?
Yeah. Should I read that and then see that what I can? The NEP has also introduced the 4-year undergraduate degree instead of the 3-year degree to ensure that students can easily transfer their degrees and credits to universities abroad. Will this affect the chances of graduates completed? See, the 3 years graduate students, even today when they wanted to go abroad, they have to do a patch-up program. So today's graduation is not accepted in most of the countries. So I'm sure we will always have a patch-up program introduced. And I am sure you all know that there is an invitation for the abroad universities to have open up their programs here. It is not just for the students in India to study in that abroad university. India is looking for attracting the large number of students who are going abroad from India, by which we are losing a lot of money. And that can be retained in India. That's one. Second one is when there are a lot of abroad universities, the competition and the quality will increase. And second one, we will have a global outlook in education. And the third one, there are going to be a lot of industries coming in India as part of the opening up. Though we say that we had an LPG system, liberalization, privatization, globalization, we couldn't open up different academic institutions coming to India, different companies coming to India. The development and the progress, if you want to reach into the $5 trillion economy GDP today, the way is we have to open up and people have to come to India to study. India is a large place where we have got a lot of potential, where we can educate well. So if we get into an international standard of teaching, I am sure like medical system is being utilized by many countries in India today. Especially the Gulf people come here, and then that is how most of our big hospitals are running. So I'm sure best academic institutions in India will have. I know one of the universities here where I go for guest lectures, Vijnan University. We have got at least students from 3-4 different countries. I'm sure there are a lot of places where we can get such students. International programs, Asia-specific programs. We have got Asia-specific programs in different specialized programs. Similarly, we will have. Okay, so there will be patch-up programs. Probably the 3-year degree program or those who have post-graduation will be seen equivalent to this. This confusion was there when we had got MSc, BTech equivalency. MTech program admission was always for BTech people, and they also had a MSc people also getting admitted to MTech. But there was a competitive exam like GATE was introduced for that purpose. So I'm sure there will be a competitive examination. Today, people can jump into life science program. I know people after electrical engineering degree joining to life science for PhD directly. They can write an entrance examination. If you prove that you have quality, I'm sure you can jump into. Today, PhDs are accepted for bright students after BTech skipping 2 years of MTech also in IITs. So I'm sure merit and your quality is there. You can always get into higher education without any patch also. I'm sure there is going to be a lot of such quality based entrance examination to prove your merit. That is going to be the order of the day. Okay. Another question, sir, do you agree with the view that the holistic and the multi, that is all, I think I already answered. The paradox of scholarship is one of the scholarship is always a big question, whether the scholarship program is, the teacher is a scholar. I remember when in Kerala had a program called WWS, Walk with a Scholar. I used to ask, the scholar is the scholar who is coming to guide the children, or the students are the scholars because they have got the scholarship with them. So I'm sure that's a big paradox. Who is a scholarship? A scholarship is one who can understand different things. That's what we say. So I keep saying when somebody calls me Shashi sir, I say don't call me Dr. T.P. Shashikumar sir, call me Sir Dr. T.P. Shashikumar when I am eligible for that. So like a sir title given to people, I think scholarship has to be given to people who are really scholars. Otherwise, today that is not what is happening. When you pass the net examination, they say that I have got a scholarship. That is not scholarship. That is the money to get a scholarship. Become a pert, not an expert. First pert, then become expert. So those who becomes pert becomes. We have got this confusion and paradox in different words. Like the other word is literacy. I saw the other day Joshua sir is mentioning the word literacy in between. So I am saying somebody is a computer literate means I know I am an expert in computer. So the word literacy is being shallowed or maybe too specialized today. Literacy is not who can read and write. That is what social science says. But in academic institutions, when we say I am a literate of mathematics, that means I know mathematics. I can communicate well in mathematics. I understand all the symbols in mathematics. So the literate means who can communicate with a lot of ideas in the way the somebody else who will understand the same idea. That is what is literacy is. So India has only official languages. We have no national language. We have there are 22 languages which are identified as national languages. It is not one official language. We have got two official languages. Hindi is also considered as official language in the secondary part. Okay. So that is why most of the letters come to the Department of Space or in the Cabinet Secretariat. We get a letter both in English and Hindi parallelly. So, sir, you have said that the private institutions in India do not use the quality of the government institutions. Ironically, the mentioned good quality education offered by universities like MIT, which is private. Yeah, in India it is not, but in abroad probably, even NASA is, though it is a government institution, it is mostly private. So don't compare the private institutions abroad and the private institutions in India. India private institutions are not equivalent to or they are not able to reach up to the scale of the best government institutions. Even today that is the situation, but there are 80% or 90% of the government institutions are not able to reach the quality of the private institutions. That is also true. So that's another great thing which we must understand. You took to the thoughts and there are a lot of comments, nice comments. I have not seen any negative comments on this. I wish also have got something to learn from you. The freedom from the British education policies that ruined our... there is no point after 70 years or 75 years talking about what America proved or British ruined or what Japan has given, what China has given, what... If you are a powerful country, you are a powerful country. I was part of the government system, so I don't generally criticize government. That probably one of the reasons when the scheme is implemented, I say I am with that. Until it comes, you had a great chance from 2019 to 20 to criticize it, whether they have accepted it or not. You had every liberty to come to public and social media and talk about this. Once it is done, you must be part of it. Now we have to talk about not what British has not done, what Britishers have done, how much money they have to pay. All that is good, but what we can do ourselves is what is to be done. Okay, so I don't keep saying that I would have been like Amitabh Bachchan, I would have been like Shah Rukh Khan. There is no point in talking about our predecessors. My parent was not good, their parent was good and all that. So let us talk about what we can do. Take examples of what Indian tradition we had. Take examples of people who have got a great vision like Vivekananda, Tagore, Mahatma Gandhi, Radhakrishnan, Nehru. Nehru did not even just copied what British had. We had a agglomeration of what Russia had, what Britain had, what America had. And don't compare India with America because America is a 500-year-old country. We are only less than a few years. So we have not even reached 100 years. So we don't have to be too much worried about what India will be. I am sure India is going to have a great future. We will be much, much better than the economic, political, business aspects of India. I've dealt very well in different forums because my specialization happened to be in business and strategic analysis. I'm sure I'm not mixing that in education because that's a different forum in which we can have. So as India, we have a great tradition in education and we have a great capacity. You go to the best universities in abroad, best professors are always from India. And there was a time when India had great students coming from different countries to learn. I am sure most of the collaborative projects, even the CMS college has got great collaboration with Russian universities. The other day Joshua sir was telling this is the time when they used to be in Russia for different collaborative programs. So we have such collaborations. I am sure the days are not far. The people will come to India. We will become the role players in the global education. That's what is going to happen. Even today, when you go to the best universities in London, you can see 50% is Chinese people who are going there for education. The basic reason is they want to get educated in English. They want to get into the global standard. So I'm sure people from India is going to China, Hungary for learning. That has to stop because we have to open up good academic institutions here. If we are not doing it, I see a lot of children from Kerala, Kottayam also going to Hungary and New Zealand and China for MBBS. I think we should change that situation because we have to open up great institutions here. If I am sure CMS college is given an opportunity, they will start a B.Ed immediately. I am sure they will start different BTech programs and different medical programs because there are good zoology teachers there. And all the zoology teachers and life science teachers can teach quite well. And you will have to appoint a few teachers who are from different academic institutions and practicing doctors to come and professionals to come into academics. I am sure there are going to be a good shake hand between academic and industry. Like hospitals will have a shake hand with academic institutions tomorrow because if some college want to start an MBBS program or a diploma program, I am sure you will have a collaboration with the nearby hospitals. You don't have to establish the infrastructure because that will cost you a lot. That is why the 20 years have come. So there is going to be a large difference in the academic institution in terms of collaborating with the private participation, industry participation, hospital participation, service sector participation, agricultural participation. All that is going to happen. How important is to promote the regional languages? There is a lot of difference in the regional languages, colloquial languages. See, I was upset when I saw the textbook in Malayalam. If you look at June 1st, Malayalam textbook was not available in mathematics. The website was so bad, I was not able to locate where the textbook is. I put a YouTube presentation. If any one of you have a doubt, how did I do that? You can see that I gave a screen dump exactly. So we have not improved our academic institutions. We have not improved our websites. We have not changed our situations. Malayalam textbooks are not available in different platforms. So you cannot implement. And if you look at translation, when I learned the Vistirnam was used for the area. But today the translation is Parappalavu. What a pathetic Malayalam is that. I think in terms of translating technical languages into stupid colloquial words have to be changed. People understand what is the concept which goes into my ear is good enough. You don't have to run behind the Malayalam used by in the Krishna Gatha what Cherusheri used or what in Ramayanam Eruttachan used or what Srinarayana Guru used. I am sure most of the people don't understand. Yesterday my talk was on Krishna Gatha. That's why I am referring that. That Malayalam people can't understand. You don't have to implement that into the classroom. What is exactly to be implemented is the concept understanding has to be into the mother tongue. So there is a great saying, the dream language is English, as the Gautam said. But what is to be taught in classrooms have to be the playground language. In the playground we use our mother tongue. Sometimes we use a mix of English, Hindi, mother tongue, everything together. So I am sure the autonomy is given to teachers to use all the three languages for the concept to get into the children. That is what the new education policy says. Don't say that the education has to be in mother tongue and other tongue. That is not the system. You can use any of these three languages. You can use combination of these three languages in your classroom, so that the idea is getting into the heart of the children, not in the head of the children. Learn by heart. Learn by not head. We are today learning by head. It is a taxful process. Instead of that, it should become a passionate process. The learning has to become a passionate process. That is what is going to be tomorrow's education. And that is what the teachers have to make tomorrow's education. I think I am not going too far from my chat box. If I go too deep, probably there may be some questions. You could retype in case if you are here. Again, the importance of private institution in creating think tank. Yeah, the flexibility is given. If you have a private institution doing, nobody stops. So still now I am a professor in a private university. So I am from government. So I am a mix of both private and government. I go to different universities and different institutions. I talk to private institutions. I also talk to government institutions. I am sure there has to be a sharing of intellectual expertise. There has to be a industry person, like an R&D person from space department. I jumped into academics. I am sure academics is going to pay good. There are a lot of industry people who are idle. Lot of people who are retired from different parts is taking rest. They will come to this. I am sure there are a lot of industry people who go into academics. Similarly, there are a lot of academic people who have to get into agriculture. And the agriculture has to become one of the potential skill development program where India's future is going to be in agriculture. So I am sure every student has to get exposed to agriculture. Today, even agriculture university people don't do agriculture by themselves. Most of the BTech students who are professional, so-called professionals, don't do the professional job. So that has to get patched up. This is what I want to tell. So either it is private or government or mix of that. I am sure everybody has got a good scope today.
Let us wind up.
Yeah, it's up to you. Is it good enough?
Okay, it is very excellent that you are consistently keeping your energy for the last 2 hours.
Yeah, no problem.
But one more question. It's
Yeah.
like a rapid fire.
Yeah.
Not very descriptive answer, rapid fire. Treat it as a rapid fire. And you seem to be very optimistic about the national education policy. And tell me one challenge or a threat that we are facing through this NEP.
Teachers. Talented teachers.
Okay, thank you. Now, I may invite our Vice Principal, Dr. Mini Chakma, to come forward to vote of thanks.
I think after vote of thanks, I will not have any chance. So my thanks to the person who is going to tell me the vote of thanks.
You will definitely get a chance.
Yeah, that's fine.
Respected Dr. T.P. Shashikumar, our keynote speaker today and a great teacher and motivator himself, Dr. Varghese Joshua, Principal CMS College and the moderator of this session, Dr. Joji John Panikkar, the IPOC Director of CMS College, the coordinator of the ABC Paramarsh scheme and the organizer of this session, teachers and students from CMS College, our mentee colleges and all our well-wishers. Listening to Dr. T.P. Shashikumar was like drawing a breath of fresh air. Yes, like Sir said, our present concept about education should be holistic. Teachers should be willing to unlearn, relearn, and able to relate to their subjects and incite a passion for learning in their students and prepare them to learn in full enjoyment, that is life. I thank Sir Dr. Shashikumar on behalf of the management and the CMS College community for being with us today and enlightening us on the pros and cons of NEP 2020. Thank you, sir. I'm thankful to Joshua sir for functioning as a moderator of this session and for his interesting observations. A special thanks to Dr. Joji John Panikkar for his commitment towards this session when he should have been celebrating his birthday with his family. A big thanks to our mentee institutions and all our well-wishers. Thank you all once again. Thank you.
Let Dr. John Panikkar say a few words.
Thank you for being part of today's webinar. And the next session in the webinar series, the third session, will be on the 23rd of September, next Wednesday. The keynote speaker for the third session will be Dr. V.N. Rajashekharan Pillai, the former Vice Chancellor of Mahabharata University, Chairman of UGC, IGNOU, and several other education capacities. He will be talking on the National Education Policy 2020, opportunities and challenges for the collegiate education system. It will be on the 23rd September 16th. Same time. Thank you.
Thank you once again.
Thank you, Mini, for the nice words. I congratulate Joshua sir because most of the seminars where I attended, they called 10 people and then show that we had 10 speakers. So it's very difficult to comprehend your idea and then sum up something and then invite questions and discuss. So I'm so glad that you are dedicating one session for one person, and that's the best approach, by which you are not showing, you are actually doing. So I'm sure if those teachers who are really taking this very serious, by the end of few sessions, I'm sure they will feel like they can take seminars and they can talk. And one of the greatest thing what you did was you started the seminar. And that was creating a real platform where I have heard you 2-3 times on YouTube. That day also I was listening, but then I had few other calls, I got interrupted. So I re-listened to that. So second time when I was searching for education and policy and all that. That's why I landed up in Radhakrishnan. So I'm sure all of you should look at what India had and then relate. You will see that it's nothing new. It's all one and the same. So we have diluted as teachers. If that happens, I'm very, very thankful. If we rebuild our education, it's thankful. So all the participants who are staying here, I'm sure my telephone number is available. Otherwise, type Dr. TPS and search for me. There could be a lot of discussions which can come. We could always discuss. And you're all welcome for any skill development programs. If some of you can push, this is what the skill development. Joshua sir, my interest present today is when the college is getting ready to start a tie-up with the skill development center, there will be a lot of lacuna we are seeing because they are not equipped for training children. So now I am looking at how an industry can be turned into accepting students. How an agricultural field can be built into such a place where students can come and sit and learn. So maybe different industries and different companies have to be built for such thing. That is what has to happen. That is what my present interest is. So thank you for this opportunity.
After the COVID, we are planning to come to your destination Hyderabad in the agricultural farm that you are set up.
I am going to have a beautiful program, and it's a big resort who can accommodate nearly 100-150 people. And
how did you manage the finance?
No issue.
No issue. 2,000 acres.
No, that's not mine. I am only a consultant. But I am into such a tempo with him. I suggest something, he does it. So we have a Amritaharam which is boosting the energy. We have got an Ayurvedic thing, allopathy inside, homeopathy inside, herbomineral inside, and tourism inside, children's play and cricket, to all the games what you have. And we also have got an agricultural program where people can work in the field and then start learning every part of farming, organic farming and natural farming.
Okay, best of luck for your new tenure.
Yeah. So all are welcome. All are welcome to learn. Yeah.
And one more thing.
Yeah.
All of our proceedings will be uploaded in our YouTube channel very soon, within a few minutes.
CMS College is doing very good, using the best equipments, best infrastructure, best IT. The man sitting behind that blue shirt person, great, doing a great job. Congratulations. I feel it.
I will introduce one more person. Within
Yeah.
you may be familiar with this particular person, Mr. Midhan.
Yeah, I know him. Yes.
He is managing the YouTube channel and the infrastructure that you have mentioned just now here.
Good, good. Great job. Great job. I have posted Krishnamurthy sir's lecture bits into, I did a screen grabbing and then posted into my MSc classmates group and all that.
Today.
Yeah, today's also I've seen.
Yes, thank you.
I've shared to Babu Sundar, E. Vijay Kumar and all of them.
Thank you.
Yeah. CMS is doing great job. Good.
Thank you for all participants.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. God bless you. It was great being with all of you. Thank you, Mini. Thank you, Jayanti. Bye-bye. Atirya, Sunil, Shivadarshana. I'm seeing some more people around. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.